Ichikawa is great at it.
Oh, it sure is, yeah. And we see turn 1 Scout Prospector, really one of the unsung heroes of this Goblins deck, helping that engine running smoothly and ramping you up to that Muxus Goblin Grandy that we see in Ichikawa's hand.
Right, and Ichikawa's list having multiple copies of Goblin Instigator really showing an emphasis on wanting to have that Prospector into 2-drop into Muxus draw that Goblins is so known for.
Yeah, Goblin Instigator, not a great card in its own right, but as a role player in this deck, it enables some of those really broken starts that make this the consensus best deck in Historic at this point. And we do see Thoughtseize here for Arilax, a big addition in Historic to this Sultai ramp strategy, going along with a lot of the classic hits from Standard like Nizuku Shakes the World.
Ooh, Krenko off the top. This is exactly the kind of card that is great at punishing decks that don't have a glut of sweepers available to them game 1.
Yeah, Ichikawa lost his Muxus to that Thoughtseize, but Krenko off the top combines very well with that War Chief, with that Goblin Chief in Ichikawa's hand. And then once you activate Krenko, suddenly Scout Prospector looks fantastic. So we're really seeing all the pieces of the engine come together here for Ichikawa. He will lose one of them to a Thoughtseize, and potentially another to that Eliminate.
Hard not to imagine Krenko isn't the pick at this point, but there is a level where Lax may just be more interested in trying to strand it in hand by killing this War Chief.
We see Ugin the Spirit Dragon, which is a fair way off at the moment. You can rely on winning the game if you can land that one, but not in the near-term future for Arilax.
Right, and 10 life is not very much for Lax here.
No, that Goblin Chieftain can put him down to 6 right now. But we're going with Goblin Matron instead here for Ichikawa. Setting up for a Muxus on the following turn, potentially.
Yeah,
and there we go.
This is a spot where Ichikawa just wants to know that he has the inevitability.
Now, Emma, I'm told in the lore, Muxus is actually a group of 5 goblins that rotate the position of Goblin Grandee between them. So losing one of them and then being able to search up another is very flavorful, very on brand for this Goblin deck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's always there's always a greater power. There's always another Muxus.
Oh, and sure enough, there's another Muxus this turn. That's Scout Prospector, acting as a Dark Ritual of Sorts here. Or we can just crunch in, put Lax down to 3, and force him to answer all of these creatures at once, which he can do with that Extinction Event.
They're all odd. Oh my gosh. And now Ichikawa's at least 2 turns from this Muxus.
Oh, but Goblin Chieftain now putting Arilax back in check. He's down to 1. And yeah, look, Overgrown Tomb coming into play tap. That's not going to do it. So Ichikawa, despite never getting to resolve Muxus and having his hand and his board shredded repeatedly, takes down game 1. And you're seeing there why Goblins is held to be so far ahead in this matchup.
And that's a lot of the power of this Goblins deck, is you do just have this beatdown plan where you have a bunch of haste creatures, and every time Lax would use, say, an Eliminate on a creature, he would end up losing a couple of points of life in that exchange because the Goblin had already gotten to attack. And you can only do that so many times in your Shockland Thoughtseize deck.
And you see here why Ichikawa is opting for this Black Splash, getting access to Thoughtseize as an upgrade to some of these less important goblins that clutter up your draw. Meanwhile, for Arilax, he gets a big sack of removal, 3 Cry of the Carnarium, 1 Witch's Vengeance to go along with maybe some extra Heartless Axe or Ether Gust if you want those too.
Right, this is the spot where we're going to see Lax trying to morph into an anti-creature deck that just tops out at Nissa.
Yeah, that Ugin rotting in his hand in the first game, not what the doctor ordered for these post-Cyborg games either, it looks like.
Yeah, Ugin's the kind of card where if you're playing against maybe a Goblins player who's newer to the archetype and is just trying to develop things to the battlefield quickly, play everything on the table, you're more likely to cold your Goblins opponent with an Ugin, right? But against someone more conservative or someone more experienced, just playing out just enough to apply pressure but not be dead to a sweeper, your Ugin just isn't going to be as effective a lot of the time.
And you get to the point where your opponent has maybe 1 or 2 cards in hand, and they only have 1 copy of Ugin in their deck, but if they're not playing any lands, and they're not playing any spells that they surely would have played, then you can narrow it down pretty quickly to what that card has to be, and so you can try and set yourself out to play around it if that's possible. So Arilax on the play here for game 2, with a very stock Sultai hand. You know, we've got the Growth Spiral, we've got a few interactive pieces, and we've got the Uro and the Hydro Krasis as these ramp payoff threats.
Yeah, this is a hand that Lax really just wants to find some more lands for.
And we're seeing a downside of Phyrexian Tower in this Goblin deck too, where Ichikawa kept a 2-lander and now can't cast the double red Conspicuous Snoop or the double red Wily Goblin in his hand.
Right, the goblins are not kind of red spells. They are very red.
Yes, your devotion to red has to be high if you want to play this Goblins deck. And a second Conspicuous Snoop, a third double red card, not what the doctor ordered here for Ichikawa, who is discarding to hand size, it looks like, which you have to love to see if you're an Ari Lax fan. Won't get to do that just yet, though, because Ari has the Growth Spiral on his end step.
Tale as old as time.
Yes. And we'll see how that tale ends for Ichikawa here. But the nice thing here is there's no Nissa yet as a follow-up. And having said that, we know exactly what's rolling off the top for Ari, I'm sure. But Ari is not applying too much pressure just yet, so maybe Ichikawa will have time to draw some more lands and grind through that Aethercast and that Heartless Act.
Yeah, this is a spot where a lot of what's going on in Lax's hand is kind of just chaff thus far. Maybe this 4/4 Krasis can start to get some work done. Uro, there is, assuming Lax gets to cast everything, the requisite number of cards available over the next few turns. You can see the direction Lax's hand is going, but it's nothing particularly exciting just yet.
No, and the nice thing about Uro is your hand does not need to be exciting as long as there are 5 or more other cards in your graveyard, and Uro can clean up a lot of the mess there. But this is a big turn for Ichikawa. I think if he doesn't hit an on-color third land here, then we're going to be sending this to a game 3, and third Conspicuous Snoop is that ain't it. So we will be going to a game 3 here, where hopefully Ichikawa will get to participate properly again. And in the meantime, if you want a quick shopping break, you can go to starcitygames.com/M21 to order Core Set 2021. Also taking pre-orders for Zendikar Rising as well. starcitygames.com/ZNR.
I'm also of the opinion that this Goblin deck, being as good as it is in Historic, is just another place that Goblins is showing that it can really hang in Eternal formats, right? I know calling Historic Eternal is a little bit back and forth. People might argue about it, but Conspicuous Snoop, one of those cards out of Core 2021, you can get over at starcitygames.com/M21, pillar of the deck. You're going to want to pick those up sooner rather than later before they go up.
Yeah, you see Elder Karkaroth hogging all of the attention there, and then the Snoop conspicuous in the background, just making itself known there as well. But yeah, I have seen this Goblin Shell show up really across constructed formats, where, if you have not had Muxus put into play against you on turn 2 via Goblin Lackey yet, then count yourself lucky. Or count yourself lackey, excuse me.
Absolutely not.
So Eliminate taking down the first player of the game in Goblin War Chief there for Ari Lax. And Ichikawa's hand is not that fast, but also doesn't have that much top end. There's no Muxus yet that we're building towards, no Ringleader for a burst of card advantage. So Ichikawa is kind of stuck in the middle here, and that's exactly the kind of hand that the Sultai deck can overpower.
Yeah, exactly. There's just nothing particularly powerful coming from Ichikawa just yet, and he was really hoping to find something like a Muxus off the top here, which is what this Wily Goblin Make a Treasure Pass is trying to maximize him being able to play towards.
And we see a baby shark jellyfish piece. There it is. There's Muxus. Okay, and that's this is what you sign up for when you play this Goblins deck. Sometimes you just draw a Muxus.
Oh my god.
As I was saying, sometimes you draw a Muxus, and sometimes you only hit a Wily Goblin. That is that is the peril of Collecting Company, Aetherworks Marvel, Winona, all of these cards in the same kind of space. Muxus lives up to that precedent by sometimes whiffing in the worst possible way.
This is, I'm going to say it. This is literally the worst Muxus I've ever seen.
Is this bragging that you've never had the full whiff before?
Well, the thing is you get so much more complaint equity out of a full whiff. So I think getting effectively nothing but technically one card, you can't even bad beats about it,
And look at this. Extinction Event on even cleans up all of those goblins. We saw exactly the same thing happen with an Extinction Event on odd previously. So that card, varies heavily in its effects, but when it works, it really, really works. And Ichikawa still making a go of it with War Chief into Chieftain, but Crowther Carnarium perfectly placed to clean both of those up. And am I right in saying we can even curve Nissa into that on this turn?
Oh, you could Nissa into Cry of the Carnarium.
Oh, you sure can. And see, Emma, that is... The land is a 3/3, and Cry of the Carnarium gives everything -2/-2, which one could argue is some kind of combination of some kind.
Honestly, if you're in Ichikawa's seat, you just don't want anyone to argue anything. You just want it to be over, you know?
Yuki asking Ari to put him out of his misery, and I'm sure Ari will oblige very shortly. Now, we are back in the same spot here, where Ari Lax is very far ahead. However, Marx's Golden Grandy, if it rolls off the top, could get the job done, which I guess we have a redraw towards it. So
Canyon
nice.
Slew's a redraw.
Krenko actually not all that bad, although Ari does have the Extinction event in reserve to mop that one up.
That's fine, it takes lands with it.
Or we could draw Heartless Act and get to keep our land around, and we still have an Uro, on the docket if we draw that. Yeah, there are so many cards Ari could draw to really slam the door shut here.
And this is exactly why people are going into this Sultai deck rather than, say, Bant or something like that. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, would not be very good at putting this game away here. Just drawing a bunch more cards, being able to be attacked down by goblins. Nissa is not the same. All of a sudden, Ichikawa has one draw.
Okay, well, that's Goblinmation. Does that... Yeah, we have the treasure, we have the tower to jump up to 6.
All
So
right.
I think it's Max's time.
Take 2.
Let's spin the wheel. What say you, Maxus Goblin Grandee? Okay. How do you feel about that, Emma?
So it's not quite lethal. Can you even attack?
I don't think we have good attacks, and that Extinction event is tough because Ari doesn't want to play that on even, but also if he plays it on odd, it only gets the Goblin Chieftain. So we maybe still have a game going on here. I guess Maxus does get to attack because it's going to grow into is it a 9/9?
Yeah, at this point, having the Muxus go after Nissa, you're still getting to actually trade with a land here, but you're actually guaranteeing that Muxus is worth at least a land worth of value.
Yeah, and that's the principle of don't give your opponent options. If you get to force a block on the Nissa rather than you hold your Muxus back, and then let's say Ari draws a spot removal spell that can deal with the Muxus. This is just a much cleaner way of dealing with one of those lands. Okay, there's Uro. Speak of the devil here. And that graveyard is well stocked for Ari Lax.
Tom, do you ever just get tired?
Of Uro?
So tired all the time. Just exhausted.
Wait. Where did all the goblins go?
They went extinct, unfortunately.
First the meteor hit the dinosaurs, and then it came from